Welcome to Short Scale Modelling. This is part 2 of AMT's Star Wars Shadow of the Empire Virago. Scale is 1 to 60. So in the first part I went through the build and what was in the box. So in part 2 I'm going to be starting the build. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. So as you can see the components are primed and these are the weapon systems. So I've already taken out all the components off the sprue and getting ready to assemble. Now looking at these, this is going to be quite a simple assembly process. The main guns housing themselves are just these two halves placed together. You will need a couple of clamps just to hold these together. And bear in mind, if you're doing an AMT kit, they're notorious for having gapping issues and build problems. A lot of people tend to shy away from them because of this. However, these weapon housings fit really well together. They're just an awkward shape, so as I said, you'll need some clamps just to hold it together while it sets. I'm using Red Watercolor 08 Matte Black, and this is for the inside of the gun barrels, so it's just a black colour, but it doesn't necessarily have to be black. It can be any colour, a dark metal colour if you wish. The two halves simply again get pushed together. There shouldn't be any problems here. And then the mount for the guns just gets placed on the end. You'll want to wait a little bit until this dries before you go on to the next procedure. There's 3 barrels to go on, and each one has his own little location point for it. They go on quite well. I would recommend fitting the bottom one first before you put on the larger 2 ones at the top. You may want to hold it for a few minutes until it sets, or do what I did. I left it for a little while, and then once it was more pliable, I then just pushed them into the position that I wanted. That way they didn't drift out once I was happy with the position. I'm using Red Watercolor 91 Steel here, and this is actually going to be the base coat for the entire model. So every surface will be painted with the 91 Steel colour. Next I'm using Red Watercolor 31 Fiery Red just for the end part of the third unit here. I'm now going over to Red Watercolor 83 Rust as well as Red Watercolor 50 Light Blue, and these two colours are for detailing the weapons or a housing. So you can see there I'm just putting in various bits and places. There's no set pattern here. I'm just doing what looks good to me. It's not necessarily the correct way, but as I said in part 1, there's been a few different variations of the painting of this. So I'm just winging it really, seeing what works, what doesn't work. It's time to fit the guns to the lower half of the hull, and these just push through this main location point here. They do move, so there's a little end cap that goes in just to fit them in place. You won't need much cement there, just where I'm pointing with my finger, just a tiny little bit of cement to hold the cap in place so the actual gun itself will move. On mine, the fit was a little bit loose. I would have liked it tighter, so they stayed more in position once I got the guns into a position that I liked. But these were a little bit loose, which is unfortunate, but at least they still moved. I'll just do a little tester to show you them moving. So you can see them moving freely. So it's onto this stand, and everything has been painted in a base colour of Red Watercolor 08 Matte Black, and just finishing up here with painting the nameplate. Going on into some of these H39 gloss purple for the top panel here. As I said, it's just the contrast colours that I'm placing in. And for the bottom panel, it's Red Watercolor 31 Fiery Red. Now, because it's on a black background, this will take 1 or 2 coats. And for the wing panels, I'm using Red Watercolor 92 Brass. I do like this colour, and I think it stands out well next to the steel colour. And once the paint's dry, I can assemble the wings, just the two halves placed together. It's a bit of a strange shape. You will need clamps once more to get everything lined up. Just make sure nothing drifts out or position, because it's an awkward shape. It does want to push out, and it'll give you some unsightly seams. But if you're careful, it should just fit in squarely, and you won't need any filler. So I'm going back to River Color 83 Rust, and these units I'm painting here are what attach the wings to the main hull. They're like a directional thruster thing, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but just these inner panels are going to get this colour. I'm using 08 matte black for these. I think they're exhaust port type things, and I'm just going to be painting this colour all over initially. And now I'm moving on to Tamiya's Rhythm Master Series D, and I'm going to be using the burnt blue component initially, and these are for the engine burners. So I want a sort of burnt look for this, and the Tamiya pigments are ideal for this. So first of all, I'm putting on the blue, and then I'll apply the burnt red. Now, if you're using this stuff, you can put as much on or as little on as you want. Depends what effect you're looking for, but these pigments blend in really well with the steel and silver colours. They're really good for showing off a burnt blue effect on an exhaust system on a bike, let's say. I would recommend these if you don't have any. I always put these pigment on with a brush sharpener. That's the brush with the solid tip. It can be foam or rubber. They also come in different shapes and sizes depending on your needs, but they're ideal for putting the pigments on. So I'm just putting on the finishing touches now, so you can see the reds and the blues coming through on the background. So it's back to the rectangular ports, and I'm using 91 steel here just to go over the raised areas and to give the ridged effect of the grille. If you do this slightly, you shouldn't encroach on the black paint underneath, and it highlights the actual grille itself. It's quite a nice little technique to master if you haven't done it before. So you can just see it laying on top over the black. So it's time to assemble, and these have a left and right to them, so make sure that you're assembling them in the correct way. The instructions are clear, so you shouldn't have any problem. But the easiest way to tell is there is the connection point that these go onto the hull will be facing the hull. And you'll see that connection point once you build it up. So have a dry fit first, so that you know exactly how these are going to get built. And it's important to get them right, because otherwise the wings will not sit properly on them. So the circular hole that you can just see there, that's the actual connecting point. Now there is a gap that goes around the edge, but that's actually a panel line. Don't think, oh, I've got a massive gap there. There's none. That's just the running panel line of this unit. And just before I end part 2, I'm just going to place these thrusters on the back plate here. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit that like button. Don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.